This was my C5's original gear knob, pitted, cracked, and with chunks of missing paint that created jagged edges that stuck into my fingers when changing gear. Something had to be done. The first thing was to remove it. So I'm going to take this one off, which is just a matter of brute force. This video follows the stream of poor decisions, shall we say, stemming from my lack of experience in this very specific field of gear knob refurbishment. In all honesty, I wasn't actually refurbishing the gear knob itself, but rather that concave bit of plastic on top that exhibits the gear pattern, because the rest of the gear knob was actually redone with a custom-made 3D printed casing after the original fake leather-bound part fell apart. Unfortunately, this 3D printed part was made to fit the very specific damage of this particular gear knob, so it's not a universal solution I can make available to those afflicted with the same problem. The first part of this endeavour actually didn't go too badly, with the casing coming off just as it should, and then I removed the remaining silver paint, which was not so smooth. I didn't want to use something too sharp like a box cutter, for fear of damaging the underlying plastic, but the guitar pick I used was just too blunt to make any proper headway. Stupidly, I ended up picking and peeling it off using my fingernails, my first poor decision, which caused them and the skin beneath them some real damage. You'll have to take my word for it, since I didn't take pictures or film my poor fingertips, but rest assured, don't do this yourselves. With the underlying off-white plastic exposed, I could now concentrate on repainting it. I chose this silvery coloured nail varnish to see if I could restore the cap to a semblance of its former glory. This ended up being my second poor decision. Now, I have never refurbished a gear knob before, but what I have done in the past is use nail polish as a tight wad paint solution. Once I used my sister's black varnish to paint over some scratches on my old Citroen VX. Did it look good? No. Was it cheap? Yes. Did I have to look for paint colour codes, scour catalogues and lists for the correct shade of black, and then have to buy a lot more than I actually needed? Hell no. Job bloody done in my opinion, and nail varnish has been my go-to solution for outright bodgery and rust proofing ever since I've had my driver's licence. This particular solution had a problem though. The gear pattern diagram and lettering was sunken into the plastic, and the varnish would flow into the lines and lettering, and if I let it dry, they would become harder to read. That wouldn't do, so I did my best to scrape out the varnish as it dried, but it looked like excrement. It looked less like the original knob and more like the Silver Surfer's feces. Off camera, I doused the whole thing in acetone and removed the silver nail polish. You might wonder why I didn't film this part, but you try fiddling with a camera when your fingers are full of f***ing acetone and melted nail varnish. With the varnish removed, I consulted with my youngest daughter, and she suggested clear nail polish, as I had some lying around that I used to make keyrings with her a short time ago. Even this didn't go well, as the finish was very uneven. But then I had a light bulb moment and remembered my days in the 3D printing industry, where we'd use acetone vapor to smooth rough ABS plastic surfaces. I did just that and put the knob in a Tupperware with acetone at the bottom. But this turned out to be a monumentally asinine idea. Another poor decision, as I put the rubber base of the knob directly in the acetone, and after a while the rubber absorbed the stuff and began to promptly crack and fall apart. I did my best to patch up the cracks with some more varnish and gaffer tape, but what a moronic mistake to make. Anyway, at least the parts that are all crapped up are covered by the sleeve you have to pull up to put the car in reverse. So having finished adding the polish to my knob, into the car it went. It isn't too unattractive, and the wife said it looks like porcelain to her, which I suppose is better than looking like a bit of old toilet seat or something else equally as unpleasant. It feels nice to the touch and it will do me fine, at least for the winter. We'll see in the summer if nail polish will sodding well melt inside a hot car in southern Europe. Thanks for watching.